Hey everybody, it's James from Palmer Hamilton Fab Lab, and today I'm going to show you how to place an object on top of another object using the workplane. So, first thing we do, as always, bring an object into our piece here. So now we have a square or a box on the workplane. What I'm going to do now is use the Workplane tool. So I can either hit W or go to the top right here, click the Workplane tool, and then you'll see this here. This little box is telling me where my workplane is going to be placed. I can place it on the sides, I can place it on the top, and essentially what this is going to do is allow me to perfectly place an object on top of another object or on the side of the object. For this, we're just going to do on the top, and then we're going to go down on the view. So I'm right clicking and moving my mouse. As you can see, I have two separate work planes right now. So, first thing I'm gonna do after that is find another object. Let's look here. Why don't we go with a star? So we're gonna put the star on top of here, and now my star is perfectly on top of that box there. And we can play with a little resizing if we want to. Try to get the star to fit perfectly in there. Awesome. So now I have a star inside on top of my box, not inside it. So, if I want to get out of this work plane, what do? I click the work plane again, and then I click on my original work plane or off to the side, right? So, boom, there. Now I have my object on top of the other object, perfectly resting. Now, could you theoretically do this? Could I put another object on top of another object without doing the work plane? Yes. However, it is a lot more tedious. So I'm going to pull this over here. And if you can see, I got to get it perfectly down. What are some ways I could do that? I could measure, use measurements. So if I know that my box is 20 millimeters high, I can put a box in here, use my arrow to Z-axis arrow to pull it off the work plane and pull it to 20 millimeters. Cool. I get it there, and then I have to get this perfectly lined up. That took a lot longer than just doing the work plane, right? So there, you do have that option. However, if I'm gonna make it simple on my end, I'm just gonna do the work plane. So let's move on to a sphere. But you're gonna have different objects. We'll bring a cylinder on as well because it's the same concept. So you can see the sphere and the cylinder are both blocky. They're not perfect circles, right? So let's focus on the cylinder. For the cylinder, you have what's called sides. So if I increase the number of sides of this, it's going to become smoother. So if I go all the way up to 64 sides, which is the max, it's going to look a lot smoother, right? It almost looks like a perfect circle. It won't be a perfect circle, but it's close enough, right? That's as close as we get. Now, if I go on the extreme opposite end, it's going to look very blocky. It's going to look very blocky. Almost looks like the top end of a nut. Okay, so the same concept goes for the sphere. So we're going to focus on the sphere. Except for the sphere, it's called steps. So if I go on the extreme left and do 3 steps, this is what I get, right? If I do 24 steps, I get a much smoother sphere here. So keep that in mind when you're doing this stuff. So how does that apply to this lesson with the work plane? I will show you. So I'm zooming out. I'm going to grab my Workplane tool. Let's start with the cylinder. As you can see, I can get different sides of the cylinder, right? So you can see it flapping around there on each side. Now imagine what it would be like doing it on the sphere. So you see it's catching all of those steps, as it said, or sides, when I'm doing this. So if I wanted to put something on top of here, let's just do something goofy like a cone. Okay, now I have that on my sphere. Go back to Workplane, get back to the original Workplane. Now I have a cone on there. What happens if I move it around? It is not going to move around the sphere. It's going to move on that invisible Workplane that we have it on. Right? So let's undo, put it back in its original spot. It is perfectly touching that sphere. Same thing would go for the cylinder. Put a cone there. And now I can move this cone up and down that work plane around the cylinder, right? Let's get out of the work plane, and we're back. So that is how you do the work plane movements on top of another object. And in the next lesson, we are going to use the work plane to get some text on top of an object using the scribble feature and the text feature. So find the next lesson. It should be lesson 4, scribble and text. Thanks for watching.